First and foremost, condolences and prayers up to the friends and family of the person shot and killed at the Trump rally tonight in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here is what we know so far. Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt from a shooter on a rooftop who is now reported dead. 9 shots are reported as having been fired before Trump was struck on his ear and fell to the ground. Secret Service has declared the rally venue to be a crime scene, and Donald Trump has released a statement through a spokesperson thanking law enforcement for their quick actions. As of the release of this video, numerous posts online are claiming that several mainstream news outlets are allegedly refusing to acknowledge the incident as an attempt on Donald Trump's life. Some claiming that he fell off the stage, and others reporting that the rally was interrupted by, quote, loud pops. None of this should come as a shock, because believe it or not, this isn't the first attempt on Trump's life. In May of 2020, rioters stormed Capitol Police guard posts and used bricks, rocks, bottles, and other projectiles in an attempt to storm the White House. 60 Secret Service division officers were injured, with about a dozen taken to the hospital. And for the last 8 years, the political left in this country has done everything just short of this to take Trump out. But the video everyone needs to see is this, right here.
Get my shoes, sir. Hold that in your head, it's bloody. So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, watch out.
And the image that should be on mugs, hats, and t-shirts, and the image that every single American patriot needs to share across every single platform from now until the election, is this. Together, let's make America great again. This is James Anthony, reporting.
Take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
And the fact that you were there, that you said the prayer just beforehand, the fact that Donald Trump came within just a couple of centimeters of death.
Well, it's definitely, the grace of God. It's definitely a testament to the power of prayer in events. I'm not saying me personally, but the effect, the invisible, powerful effect of the angelic realm.
While the conversations concerning the assassination attempt of President Donald Trump continues to rightfully focus on the failures of intel and security agencies in place to prevent such acts from happening, both secular and religious figures in politics and media are calling Trump's survival miraculous.
We cannot know what the future holds.
Miracles are typically defined as welcomed events that cannot be explained by natural means, and are therefore described as works of a divine agency.
God spared President Trump from that assassin because God is not finished with him yet.
Many of us use the term without a clear understanding of the unseen forces that are necessary for miracles to manifest in the physical realm.
I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw. The Lord told me, he said, I am not done with America.
Posting on his Truth Social account. Here's his latest post. It came in just moments ago. Thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday. It was God alone, he said, who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win.
Speaking at a Heritage Policy event in response to the awful events of July 13th, 2024, saw Tucker Carlson attempt to describe these unseen forces at play.
This is not ultimately political. This is much deeper. And I think what happened on Saturday, the assassination attempt against President Trump, reminded a lot of people this, or awakened a lot of people to this. There is a spiritual battle underway. There is no logical way to understand what we're seeing now in temporal terms. You just can't. These are not political divides. There are forces, and they're very obvious now, they've decided for whatever reason to take off the mask, whose only goal is chaos, violence, destruction. And there are the rest of us who, once again, are not always certain we're right, but we know that that's bad. It's much deeper and older and more recognizable than that. This has been going on since the beginning of time. And I do think, by the way, that the more literal among us, and I would count myself in that category, fail to see this because we're so desperate to ascribe some kind of recognizable human motive to what we're seeing. So we call it leftism or neoliberalism or communism or anarchism. We come up with some phrase to describe it. All of us have been raised to see the world through the lens of evolutionary biology. The species does what it does because it's acting in its own interest, and its own interest is to procreate, to pass on its genes, to continue. And so you tell me what we're looking at if the defining movements of our time are against carrying on our genes, procreating, continuing. Is that human? Well, no. Is there any other animal species that kills itself? No. Is genocide known in the natural world? No, it doesn't even make sense. It's not found in nature, okay? That's something outside of nature. That's supernatural. They're dedicated to the destruction of people and the civilizations that people build. But what group do they dislike most? What group are they absolutely terrified of and hoping to eliminate? Well, it's Christians. That's who it is. It's Christians. And I'm saying this as not a particularly fervent, lifelong Christian. I am a Christian, but I haven't spent my life, surrounded by plumes of incense deep in prayer. I spent my life in a newsroom saying the F word. I mean, I'm not sort of a pious person at all. It was true during the Cultural Revolution. There weren't many Christians in China. They were the first to be killed. It was true in the French Revolution. They beheaded nuns. What did the nuns do? Were the nuns really an impediment to progress? No, the nuns existed. And they pledged a higher fealty to Jesus. And that was their crime, and for that they were killed. It was true in the beginning of the Spanish Civil War. The communist side, which wasn't really communist at all, it was anti-Christian. Who's the first person they executed? Well, it wasn't a person at all. It was a statue of Jesus, and they opened fire on it with a firing squad.
Perhaps the political figure that best understood the moral responsibilities that came with the codified freedoms as outlined in the formation of America was President John F. Kennedy.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Perhaps we could also make the case, regardless of where you stand on politics or religion, that in a time like this, it might be best to ask not what the Creator can do for you, but what you can do for your Creator. This is James Anthony, reporting.
In 1775, the Continental Marines, a naval force formed by the Continental Congress, proudly raised the pine tree flag, declaring their defiance against the British Empire. It became a symbol of their unwavering commitment to fight for independence. The pine tree flag bore witness to pivotal moments in our nation's history. It fluttered in the winds of change during the siege of Boston and stood steadfast during the Battle of Bunker Hill, reminding all who beheld it of the sacrifices made by the founding generation. Today, the An Appeal to Heaven flag may not be as widely known as the Stars and Stripes, but it remains an important part of our heritage. It serves as a powerful reminder of the courage and faith that birthed a nation. Let the pine tree flag be a beacon of inspiration, urging us to have faith in the face of adversity, to unite in the pursuit of justice, and to never forget the revolutionary roots upon which our great nation stands. For as long as the pine tree flag flies, the spirit of resistance and the call for freedom shall endure.
We cannot get re-elected. We cannot win this re-election. We can only re-elect Donald Trump.
Just 5 months away from the presidential election in November, and Trump derangement syndrome is back in season and on full display.
Maybe Donald Trump will go away. Maybe he'll go to jail. Maybe he will die.
A few weeks ago, we brought you the video showing a mentally ill protester who set himself on fire in front of the Manhattan courthouse, where the Biden White House has Trump standing trial.
He's lighting himself on fire. Hello.
On May 22nd, hazmat teams arrived at the RNC headquarters in Washington in response to a suspicious package call. What they found was a package filled with 2 vials of blood addressed to Donald J. Trump.
Something's happening inside.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of context, so that's right next to the House office buildings.
Scheduled for July 15th this year, we have an RNC convention in Milwaukee, in which the safety of attendees is now in question because of perimeter concerns that the Secret Service seems to be ignoring.
What was the crowd like, and what kind of response did he get?
Well, certainly a bigger crowd than I think Democrats would like to see, particularly given this is one of the bluest counties in the entire country.
And of course, we all know the story of the Biden DOJ under Attorney General Merrick Garland, who authorized the use of deadly force in the raid of Mar-a-Lago.
I approve the decision to seek a search warrant after probable cause was
overruling the FBI agents who did not want to do so. Did you talk about this?
And what this all adds up to is a wrong-headed,
years I was out of work because of that. There, I said what it was. All about a picture.
lethally dedicated.
This time next year, I might not be sitting here. There might not be a White House Correspondents' Dinner or a free press.
Cartoonishly evil.
The details of this entire operation have been stored in a top-secret binder in a secret room in Washington. Trump ordered the whole thing declassified, and now the rumor is that the binder might be missing.
Ignorant death cult.
These people, they're willing to lie, cheat, and steal if it allows them to get one step closer to their objective.
That wants to see the 45th president of the United States gone by any means necessary.
He's got court, and the man practically has the legal version of an ankle bracelet around him, and he can't leave the 5 boroughs because he always has to be in court.
One would think the far left in this country wants their boogeyman.
The president himself has raised this conspiracy that you feel like you have to support.
I've not even talked to the president about this.
To raise funds and to further promote woke ideologies. But that isn't the case, and like everything else they do, it doesn't make sense. Unless you're not concerning yourself with the best interests of the American citizen.
30 minutes before the President of the United States is supposed to be in this room. Feel the excitement?
Maybe all we needed was a puppet to continue the pandering, the laundering, the foreign wars, and selling us out. This is James Anthony, reporting.
I got these flags planted here on the beach by these MAGA. Listen, this is all America. We know you didn't storm the beaches to stake out your territory on the beach. This isn't the moon. I get it. This is America. But I'm sick of my flag being represented by white nationalist trash on a beach. Go fuck yourselves. We're wondering how it is that someone of the billionaire class like Donald Trump could not only become president, but still capture the hearts of supporters 4 years after the fact, despite all that's been thrown at him. Here's an interesting take from a debate at Oxford.
Populism has become a word used synonymously with racists. We've heard ethno-nationalist, with bigot, with hillbilly, redneck, with deplorables. Elites use it to show their contempt for ordinary people. This is a recent change. Not long ago, Barack Obama, while still president at the North America's Leaders Summit in June 2016, he took umbrage with the notion that Trump be called a populist. How could Trump be called a populist? He doesn't care about working people. If anything, Obama argued he was the populist. If anything, Obama argued Bernie was the populist. It was Bernie who'd spent 5 decades fighting for working people. But Trump. Something curious happens if you watch Obama's speeches after that point, more and more recently. He uses the word populist interchangeably with strongman, with authoritarian. The word changes meaning. It becomes a negative, a pejorative, a slur. To me, populism is not a dirty word. Since the 2008 crash, and specifically the $1 trillion Wall Street bailout, we are in the populist age. And for good reason. The elites have failed. Let me address some common fallacies, some of which have been made tonight. If the motion was that demagoguery was a threat to democracy, I would be on that side of the House. If the motion was that political violence was a threat to democracy, I'd be on that side of the House. Populism, as you know, is the politics of the ordinary people against an elite. Populism is not a threat to democracy. Populism is democracy. And why else have universal suffrage if not to keep elites in check? Ladies and gentlemen, given the success of Trump, and more recently Javier Milei taking a chainsaw to the state behemoth of Argentina's bureaucratic monster, you'd be mistaken for thinking this was a right-wing populist age. But that would be ignoring Occupy Wall Street. That would be ignoring Jeremy Corbyn's for the many, not the few. That would be ignoring Bernie against the billionaires, RFK Jr. against Big Pharma, and more recently, George Galloway against his better judgment. Now, all of them, including Galloway, recognize genuine concerns of ordinary people being otherwise ignored by the establishment. I'm actually rather surprised that our esteemed opposition, Congressman Pelosi, is on that side of the motion. I thought the left was supposed to be anti-elite. I thought the left was supposed to be anti-establishment. Today, particularly in America, the globalist left have become the establishment. I suppose for Ms. Pelosi to have taken this side of the motion, she'd be arguing herself out of a job.
In many ways, Donald Trump is America itself. Much like the Revolutionary War, Trump separated himself from the ruling class to establish a party all its own. He is deeply flawed, but adheres to the unspoken social contract that moves the country towards better days, despite others not living up to their end of the bargain. He returned home from 4 years of war to be spat on and ridiculed while maintaining a resolve that only comes from knowing that the values that keep us together are stronger than the forces who wish to divide us. He himself is a polarizing figure, much like the Civil War that gave rise to clarity on what we should stand for, even though it conflicts with who we are. He's a loud, brash, rich, industrious military leader that upholds the image of strength, even in times of weakness. He cuts the red tape to unleash the American energy that is only stifled when the politics of the day keep the average voter arguing over guns and government. And yes, Donald Trump is a symptom of our years of sickness as a country. In some ways, he's a reflection of all of us who know the game is rigged and that evening is upon us in America. We certainly deserve the circus that our institutions have become, simply because we couldn't keep it. And as the melting pot of America finally reaches its boiling point with a guilty verdict for the former president, the only institutions that can right the wrong are twofold: the Supreme Court of the United States of America and you, the American voter. This is James Anthony, reporting.
It doesn't matter whether you're black or brown or white or whatever the hell color you are, it doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we're going to pull together as Americans.
It would be really great if we could be covered fairly by the media. The media is the biggest problem we have as far as I'm concerned. Single biggest problem.
Mainstream reports on May 8th have confirmed the death by suicide of January 6th attendee David Hommel. Hommel was allegedly arrested by the FBI in January this year and faced 8 charges related to the gathering 3 years ago. Hommel's death is the 5th such incident to date, and the message from Biden's Justice Department is clear, as the United States is set to elect the next president in just 6 short months. Hommel follows Matthew Perna, Jord Meacham, Mark Ongst, and Christopher Georgia. The silence from both sides of the political aisle is deafening.
As long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve.
At the same time, the Secret Service is silent on potential contingency plans in the event that President Donald Trump is convicted in the hush money trial currently taking place and is sent to prison.
This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
While some may think that the rhetoric coming from the left is no different from what we saw in 2016, or that the talk of a potential plot by the deep state coming from the right is simply overblown, the telltale truth is that the chatter among the mainstream talking heads now include the death of the former president.
I think many of them want to be close to power. They also assume or have this thought in their mind that maybe Donald Trump will go away. Maybe he'll go to jail. Maybe he will die, not to be too morbid, but maybe, he's not a young man.
Some are citing his age. Others, the aggravation of the lawsuits against him, and many continue to hint at something even darker. While Donald Trump is certainly no stranger to controversy, and seems to be aware of this growing narrative to normalize such a thing.
Hey, you mentioned prison, and they want to put you in prison, and the most shocking thing I've seen in a long time, Benny Thompson, who tries to come off as this avuncular kind of wise man, from the January 6th committee. He wants to put you in prison without Secret Service. I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if you've reacted to it yet, but he's got a proposal that would terminate Secret Service. Now, these Democrats want you dead. You realize that?
Yeah, because I'm the one that turns things around. I'm the one that had the best economy in history. I'm the one that had the best border in history. I'm the one that had the low energy prices, and we were respected all over the world. And
you'd have to ask yourself how this is different, and what the ultimate endgame of the globalists and their mainstream puppets really is. This is James Anthony, reporting.
One nation, under God. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We love our country, don't we? It's amazing. And it's a great country, but we have to take it back. Because
Our country's not feeling so well nowadays, and we're going to bring it back, and we're going to make it healthy and beautiful and better than ever.
The additions of Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Elon Musk to assist in the effort to make America great again have created a coalition of Silicon Valley tech workers, disenfranchised African American voters, steadfast Republicans of all walks, and environmentalists.
You know, I got into the environment because I wanted, you know, this connection to the fishes and the birds and the wildlife and the whales and the Purple Mountain's majesty, and that, you know, I understood that the way, you know, God talks to human beings through many vectors, through each other, through organized religion, through the great prophets, through the wise people, the great books of those religions, but nowhere with the kind of detail and texture and grace and joy as through creation.
Under the leadership of President Trump, a proposal has been put forth to solve the declining birth rate in the United States.
I know some of your opponents, your political opponents, are saying that you want to ban IVF. While it didn't work for us, it's worked for a lot of families. And I just know that there are women and couples in this crowd, or those who are watching here tonight, who may be going through this same struggle and are concerned about being able to have this option, either because they might not be able to afford it, or they're concerned that it just may not be available. And I'd love for you to talk to them.
We're looking at it, and what we're going to do is, for people that are using IVF, which is fertilization, the government is going to pay for it, or we're going to get or mandate your insurance company to pay for it, which is going to be great. We're going to do that.
I can't tell you how life-changing that would be for so many families.
In a more conservative time in this country, the response would have been one of pointing out the correct role of the federal government, and that the government has no place in offering, quote, free healthcare to anyone. Adjusted for inflation, the national debt is actually far more than the $30 trillion the mainstream news would have you believe. But with an out-of-control government with almost no representatives who care about debt spending and the actual future of America, we can't count on the feds to solve an issue they have single-handedly created.
It's a shell of what it was years ago, but we're going to bring it back.
What we have had now for generations is an assault on our food supply, air quality, water, and almost every other necessity needed to not only survive, but to procreate and prosper.
There are chemicals like PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, atrazine, which can turn male frogs into females and produce fertile eggs. That's how potent they are as an endocrine disruptor, and it's in 63% of our water supply. PCBs, which I've been fighting since the day I became an environmental lawyer and getting them out of the Hudson.
The Trump policy in this regard may be to further kick this can down the road for future generations to solve under a third world-like inflation. But that certainly isn't the goal of the globalist opposition to another Trump presidency. In fact, once the system we currently have has been bled dry, we will be forced to accept a digital one, as we're already being told.
Those who do not adapt to this fourth industrial revolution will find themselves ousted and will lose. They will lose everything, including their freedom.
The choice this November may also not be about personal responsibility anymore. This report has a wonderful sponsor in Primal Life Organics linked in the description of every report we bring, and we encourage you to do your part to stay healthy and free of harmful chemicals best you can. In the very least, go to the site linked below and compare and contrast ingredients with the name brand items you already have in the house. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you. USA.
But the choice this November is about deciding on a more patriotic generation of future Americans armed with the truth, instead of one that believes in killing us off and enslaving the rest.
We invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
This is James Anthony.
When we destroy nature, we degrade our own ability to experience the divine.
Reporting.
We get nature enriches us economically and spiritually and culturally and historically. It connects us to those 10,000 generations of human beings that were here before there were laptops. And it connects us to the most important spiritual lesson. All of the organized religions that we know of today, the central revelation of every one of those religions always occurred in the wilderness. Moses had to go into the wilderness to listen to hear God's voice and see the burning bush. He had to go to the wilderness of Mount Sinai to get the commandments. Muhammad who was a city boy from Mecca, had to go to the wilderness of Mount Hera on a camping trip with his kids and wrestle the angel Gabriel in the middle of the night and have the first stanzas of the surahs of the Quran squeezed from him. Buddha had to go into the wilderness to sit under and wander for years, and then to sit under the Bodhigaya tree to get his first revelation of nirvana. And Christ had to spend 40 days in the wilderness.
Police! Hey! Police! There's a guy lighting himself on fire! He's lighting himself on fire! Hello? Hello? Police! Police!
A book by author Ingersoll Lockwood, published in 1893 and titled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, has resurfaced as proof to some that Donald Trump was foreshadowed long ago.
Give us the wisdom to be able to guide this great nation. In the future, we ask in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The main character has a twice the normal size head, lives in Castle Trump, visits with and sues the Russian government, and has a less than admirable approach to women and natives.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
Another Lockwood book from the same trilogy, published in 1896, titled The Last President, begins with New York in a state of chaos, and Americans protesting a faulty election. One of the more prominent purveyors of the thought that Trump could literally be the false god of the Holy Bible is the Twitter account @DonnieDarkened.
And this was written by my mother, with my name, it's a long time ago.
The name Christ is from the Greek meaning the anointed, or the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Donald Trump's paternal grandmother's last name was Christ, and she is recorded as having passed away on June 6th, 1966. Blood moon occurrences are significant in several biblical prophecy. Born June 14, 1946, under what several Christian pastors have said was a blood moon, was Donald Trump. Ancient Celtic for world ruler is the name Donald. The surname Trump means herald. In summation, the name comes to mean herald of the world ruler. Other anecdotal references point out that MAGA is fifth in the hierarchy of the Church of Satan.
I don't like to have to ask for forgiveness, and I am good. I don't do a lot of things that are bad. I try and do nothing that's bad. I live a very different life than probably a lot of people would think.
Abaddon, the Hebrew bringer of death and destruction, when spelled out in English, is Abaddon. With 4 years of Donald John Trump as Commander-in-Chief, and given what the world has experienced in that time,
we are all in this together.
Is it fair to ask if Donnie really is darkened? For some, this question is downright silly. For others, this is the most important question one could ask. And perhaps whether you love the Donald or hate him, whether you believe the claims of @DonnieDarkened or not, something or someone has been trying to get our attention. This is James Anthony, reporting.
Such total disrespect to Christians and November 5th is going to be called something else. You know, it's going to be called Christian Visibility Day, when Christians turn out in numbers that nobody has ever seen.